Hello, today we are talking about building your confidence as an author. I'm Melody Ann, your host and the founder of Author Nation. We have resources for you at every stage of the publishing process. If you're feeling stuck wherever you happen to be, go grab one of our resources to help you with that. You can find that at authornation.online. Again, that's authornation.online. It is scrolling past you right now, and it is in the description. All right, today our guest, Marla Press, is a public speaking coach, author, speaker, life coach, and art of presence teacher. She helps authors like you become extraordinary speakers so that when you promote your books, people listen and engage. Marla helps you build presence, master energy, unhook from self-doubt, and make a bigger impact by increasing your wow factor and your trust factor. This will make a huge difference in your writing and in your speaking. Executives and entrepreneurs have benefited from Marla's powerful, unique exercises in her one-on-one coaching and her fun 6-week boot camps. Marla wrote and self-published the emotional roller coaster book series as well. Let's welcome Marla Press. Hey, Marla, how are you today?
Hey, Melody. I'm so excited to be here because you're talking about my two favorite subjects, writing and speaking. And
Yes.
I love you have a live audience too. This is fantastic.
Yes. And if you're watching out there and you have questions, don't forget to ask. You can ask questions. We will answer your questions if we can. I'm not gonna say we will answer your questions just in case you ask me something I don't know. All right. So I want to talk about confidence because we're talking about confidence. Would you consider yourself confident? Like how, when you think about yourself in the confidence scale, where do you put yourself?
I am very confident now.
Yes.
Didn't always feel myself as confident. So it's a journey and it takes time, and it's more than just practice. It's really mind shift, practice, and knowing certain exercises to really come into your full presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though you consider yourself kind of high on the confidence level, do you still now and then have moments of not feeling so confident?
Yeah, everyone does, and including me. So there's times when you still get those little butterflies, which isn't a bad thing. The bad part is when you doubt yourself. So you don't want to doubt yourself. It's okay to have a little shake. A little shake can be energetic, but it's funny because when I was growing up, I was an introvert. I hardly spoke. I had very few friends, but I loved being on a stage. And I did so many different things on stage. I was in plays, and I was a dancer and a choreographer. And I was so passionate about what I did that it helped with the confidence. And I wrote, and I was very creative. So when I wrote something, I wanted to share it. And I could be on a stage and share it and feel really good. But get off that stage, oh, I was not confident.
That's so interesting. It's interesting how some people feel more confident, on stage, and there's a bit of a barrier, right? It can be a safe place, but when you come down and you're one-on-one, it can get really, scary. So how did you? I'm gonna say you have unwavering confidence. How did you develop your unwavering confidence?
Yeah. So again, it was a process. So I did a lot of personal work, and that wasn't always so easy. And one of the mind shifts is that I feel that a lot of people are not confident. A lot of writers are not confident in putting their book out there, or a lot of writers who then want to speak are not confident about speaking because they worry too much about what they're going to say. But communication is only 10% the words you use. It's 20% your tone of voice, and it's a whopping 70% your body language and your energy. And so the mind shift is, it's not, is what I'm saying valuable? It's, am I good enough? Am I valuable? And when you believe you're valuable, every time you speak, you know that you have something to give. And it's not about saying the perfect thing.
Yes, I often don't say the perfect thing. I'll be the first to admit it, but it doesn't stop me from talking. So I have a quick, the way you're speaking, I'm really curious. Is this heart led or head led? So are you led by your heart or by your head? And your confidence, is it led by your heart or is it led by your head?
Yeah, this was another huge shift for me. So growing up, I was very intelligent, one of the smartest kids in the school. I'm very analytical. And so I lived in my head and, didn't always trust my gut. Even though I was very intuitive, I just didn't always trust it. And what I learned much later in adulthood was to get out of my head and into my heart, and my gut changed everything.
Yeah.
So I still drift back to being in my head because that's my nature, but I realize the power and the joy. It feels good to be in your heart and your gut.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy thing to do. I can't just say, okay, I'm going to do it now, or say, okay, have more presence or be more in your heart. You have to really experience it. I believe all learning is about experiencing something so that you really get how to transform.
Yeah. And thank you for adding the gut piece, because I did ask about head and heart, but the truth is, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've had this like gut, like something's wrong and I can't figure out what it is feeling. And one thing I've learned in my life is to trust that and to sit down and think, okay, what could this be? Where is this coming from? And so thank you for adding gut, because I think it's really, really important. So you coach.
Can I say one more quick thing about that, Melanie?
Yes.
I just have to put this out there because it's somewhat new information, and certainly we're really figuring this out more and more. And that is that our brains are really in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
There's more serotonin in your stomach than there is in your brain. But we always think about the brain as needing the serotonin. And it all comes from this place. And that's why getting out of your head is so important. So trusting that gut, like you were saying, is really important, because it's not just, if we just weigh the pros and cons of something, we're usually filtering it through our past, through what we already know, we've already done.
Yeah.
But the gut knows even more than our mind does.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that has not led me astray. When I sit down and it's funny because it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're a dog person, your dog likes certain people and doesn't like certain people. And after a while you think, I should trust my dog, right? I don't have a good reason for trusting my dog, but I should trust my dog. Your gut's that, I'm not calling your gut a dog, but the same idea, right? We can't
just take your dog everywhere you go and you'll be fine.
Yes. But our gut does the same thing. Just because we can't articulate it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
It's
So how did
becoming
you?
aware and noticing what your gut is telling you, because most of the time it's subconscious and we're not aware of it. So it's just becoming aware.
Yes, absolutely. So how did you get to lead public speakers, and how did you get to coach public speakers?
Yeah. So it's funny because I did a lot of public speaking myself. I was a practice management consultant for dentists and doctors, and I was on a lot of stages. I talked about being on stage, performing, being in plays, and that kind of thing. But what I realized was I really enjoyed it, but I was missing something. I wasn't getting the followers that I wanted to. And I took this training called the Art of Presence. It was actually at that time called the Art of Feminine Presence. And we did a lot of speaker training within that. And I realized that through these exercises, I became really, really good at not only performing, but at connecting with the audience and really having a lot of creativity with it also, so I could stand out. And what I find is these days, and especially since COVID, but let's say in the past 3 or 4 years, there's so many more people that are writing books and so many more people that are coaches and want to be putting their message out there. And honestly, they're kind of boring and they're not standing out from the crowd. And the crowd is getting bigger and bigger. It's huge. It's so hard to stand out. It's hard on social media. It's hard to stand out in any format and really be seen and keep people's attention. And so my passion is to help people that are helping people, to help people that already have a great message, but that aren't being seen and heard like they could be. And so I show them these exercises. I don't just talk to them about it. We do some regular speaking techniques too, but these exercises are so powerful that people just transform like that. And I just love it so much. And it helps so many people.
I love that. Okay, you've talked about the feminine. I want to come back to that later. I'm really curious about that. But I had a question about what you were talking about. You talked about performing and you talked about connecting. And sometimes we see these as not connected. Like if you're up performing,
Right.
you're not being authentic,
Yes.
then you're less likely to connect. And
Yes.
so can you just give me your perspective on the idea of performing and connecting? Do they work together? Can you perform authentically?
Yes. So what I find is, there's something called glossophobia. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. I love that term because it doesn't sound anything like what it is. I make a joke, oh, it's about being afraid of lip gloss. No, glossophobia is the fear of public speaking. And about 70% of adults are afraid of public speaking, like really afraid, like it's almost a phobia. And about maybe 10% are not afraid at all, but they're out there performing and they're not getting the results they want. So if you perform all the time, you're in performance mode. That's when you're rah, rah, and you got this high energy and you're projecting onto people. And it can be fun and entertaining. You can seem charismatic and interesting for a while, but it's exhausting for you. And it's kind of exhausting after a while for your audience to have to be, in that mood. So instead of that, you have to find the best balance. So you have to do both. You have to be somewhat of a performer. You certainly have to be creative and entertaining, but then if that's all you have, you're not going to connect. So how can you have some of that and then also be authentic and grounded and connect through opening up a two-way conversation? It's not, I find a lot of, I've spoken with doctors and executives and they know they've got great information and their intention is, I have to give it to people. I have to, tell them this because it's so important. And yeah, but if you want it to be received and you want people to connect and want to work with you or want to even believe what you have to offer, then you have to open up this intention of a two-way communication so that you draw people into you and you're not projecting onto people in that performance mode.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. That's such a great explanation. Thank you so much. So what strikes me is that even in this world of Zoom, where we're all on Zoom all the time, we're still afraid to be seen. We're still afraid to get on stage. We're still afraid to be seen. We're afraid to give a talk. We're afraid, authors are afraid to do readings. Even on creating a YouTube channel and doing readings of their different books, there's this fear. They're afraid of this camera.
Yeah.
What's going on?
The camera is just, we're not used to it. We're used to personal communication, right? And so it's partly a mindset where instead of thinking I'm talking to the camera and I have no idea who's out there, you do know who's out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know your audience, and everybody in your audience might not be the same, but there's somebody listening that needs to hear what you have to say, and that is your ideal audience, and that really wants to take in what you have to say. And so speak to them instead of thinking I'm just looking at the camera and I'm not getting anybody to respond to me, and this is so weird. So it's that, and then it's also the intention of how can I receive the audience? So I've heard a lot about engaging the audience, and I totally help people engage the audience. There's so many ways to do that. But receiving the audience, I've not heard too many people talk about that. And it's an energetic receiving. It's an intention. I'm not just going to give you this information, but I really want to open up this connection, and I want to receive your energy. And if you can imagine that and have that in the back of your mind as you're speaking, then it's a little easier than just, oh, I'm on camera. And there's also a lot of other reasons why people don't want to talk to a camera or even be on a stage, right? Because you're being judged. I mean, let's face it, right? We are being judged. And it's the same with writers. Even before you speak, just putting your information out there. A lot of people will write a book and then they'll never publish it because they're afraid to show their expression and show who they are and be judged. But we're human. We all judge each other. We judge ourselves probably much harsher than we judge other people. And so it's going to happen, but that's okay. You're not going to please everybody. And that's not the purpose. The purpose is for you to get your message out, feel joy because of that, and to know that you are going to affect a lot of people in a real positive way. And if not everybody likes it, that's okay.
Yes. Something I use all the time for myself, and I passed on to my kids. I often tell them, look, what other people think of you, none of your business.
Yeah.
If you are going to spend your life worrying about what other people think rather than moving through the life you want to live, you're going to be miserable, right? So it's none of your business. And so I guess, part of what we're afraid of on stage is being judged, being seen is scary, right? Because then you become vulnerable to judgment.
Yes.
Right? And I guess it translates to camera, but there's also something else about the camera. And I'll tell you a story. So I wanted to start a YouTube channel years before I actually started a YouTube channel. I don't like the camera at all. Me and the camera did not have a good relationship, but I plucked up my courage and I did a couple of videos. I put them out on YouTube, and through the grapevine, somebody close to me told me that somebody else who was close to me, who didn't want to say anything to my face, said some very unkind words to me about me on camera. And then another person who was a friend who wanted to be helpful came and told me everything I'd done wrong in the videos and told me how, and I shut down that YouTube. I would have been on YouTube years before I was on YouTube if I hadn't listened to that, right? Yeah. And so when I came back to YouTube and I thought I have to do this, I got really serious. I got so serious. Everything was so serious. I put a photograph of Robin Williams behind my camera because I thought I am never going to be able to take myself serious when I'm looking at Robin Williams.
I love that. That is awesome. What a great idea.
Yeah, but people stopped me. Yeah. Right? And I know I shouldn't have let them. So I have a question. How do we get out of our heads? How do we move past that fear of judgment? How do we get past looking for those perfect words and just and worrying about how we look and just performing in our own way and connecting with the right people? How do we do that?
Yeah. The old adage that beauty is only skin deep is really true. So no matter what you look like, if you are radiant, if you are authentic and connecting and giving, and you have something important to say, you will look good. So that's number one. And then also, we talked about it's only 10% the words you use. So to not worry so much about saying the perfect thing or even remembering your lines, right? Because no one else knows exactly how it's supposed to go. Only you know that. So to give yourself a break and use pauses, and you want to know your stuff, of course, and you want to practice, of course, but to not be so rehearsed or so practiced that you come off as this robot or come off as this person that's just reading something even though you're not reading it. So those are a couple ways. And then the biggest way is to energetically get out of your head and get into your full body. And that sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's really not. There's practical ways of doing that, and it makes a difference. So a lot of people will go, I don't know about this energy thing. That is a little woo-woo. I try and make energy work really practical because we all are affected by everyone's energy at all times. So let's say you meet somebody at the grocery store and strike up a conversation and they look okay, right? And they're saying some, sort of some okay things, but you get this creepy feeling from them. And you can't put it into words, but you just get a creepy feeling. That's their energy. It's not what they're saying or how they look. It's their energy. And then on the positive side, you meet somebody and they look just kind of average and they're saying, maybe even saying some average things, but you feel magnetically attracted to that person. They draw you in. You feel just this attraction you can't put into words. In dating, we call that chemistry, and you just can't always explain it in words. That's your energy. So we've all experienced that. It's a real phenomenon. It affects all of us consciously and unconsciously at all times. So how can we live in our full body energy? And mindfulness is just the first step. So yes, you don't want to be thinking about the past and you don't want to think about what's happening now and how it's going to affect the future, but then you're still up in your mind. So what I help people do is get totally out of your mind and into your full body. And the best way to do this is probably to do an exercise. Would that be okay to do an exercise? And
yes. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, absolutely. Let's try this.
So normally I spend a lot more time with this. I'll try and do the abridged version of this exercise. But basically it's getting into, when I say your full body presence, you have this area in your pelvic area, actually. Some people in yogic traditions will call it a dantian, but and I call it home space. But it's this area that is where all your essence is. It's not who you are, what you've done, your name. It's the essence of who you are. And it almost has its own consciousness. It's the place of birthing. If you think of, for women, sometimes I'll call it your womb space. It's where your creativity comes from and where you birth new ideas and where you're so resourceful. And that's different than being in your head where your critical mind is and your to-do list. So as a demonstration, we'll do a before and after, which makes it really fun. So Melody, can you tell all of us what you do? What would be your 30 to 60 second pitch, so to speak?
All right. Hey, I am founder of Author Nation, a community for nonfiction authors. If you have a book idea, we will help you create a path to success. Then you join the community where you will receive the structure, the accountability, the resources, and the support you need to go from idea to published.
Okay, awesome. So that's what you would normally tell people if they ask, what do you do, right? Okay. So if you're not driving, go ahead and do this with us, because it's really powerful to witness the difference. And it's really powerful to just at least feel, you might not be doing it before and after pitch right now, but just feel how it's different and how you relate to Melody after this exercise versus how you just related to her right now. So go ahead and close your eyes. And just take a deep breath and allow your body to just sink into your chair. Let your neck relax and your eyes and your mouth relax. And just feel your feet on the ground. Notice what they're touching, carpeting or hardwood floor, and really pay attention to your feet. And imagine you have roots that come 15 feet from the middle of the earth up into your legs. Some people imagine plant roots. Some people just sense the energy and bring that energy up into your legs and then up into your home space. A little bit to the back and the middle of your pelvic area, a couple inches below your navel, and just bring all of your attention there. And then breathe into that space and just allow yourself to relax into that place. And imagine there's a bowl of honey just swirling and just rocking back and forth within this space. It feels so good. And just allow the energy to move within you. And then bring some of that energy up into your heart space. And your heart space is not just your heart physically, it's all the area around it that is your self-compassion, compassion for others, and self-acceptance and love for others and yourself. And just feel the energy of it moving and swirling around your heart. And then how it moves up and down between your home space and your heart space. And allow it to just move and expand. And in just a moment, you're going to bring your attention back to the room. And from this place, inside of you, tell people what you do and how you help others.
Hello, I am the founder of Author Nation. We help authors go from idea to published. If you have an idea that you want to turn into a book, join us. We will create a path for you, just for you, to success. Then you join the community and you'll get the structure, the accountability, the resources, and all the support you need to go from idea to published. So join Author Nation.
Ooh, how did that feel different?
That was fun. I changed around a few things. I was certainly and more grounded, right? So I was definitely more grounded. To be honest, I never really think about what I'm going to say when I do my 30-second pitch. And I know that that's the wrong thing to do. People always say, have your 30-second pitch ready. But I don't. I just know what I do. And I think they were similar in words, but ever so slightly different. I repeated things more the second time.
Yeah. And did you notice that what you repeated was more, you used the word join and community and the word you.
Yes.
And that is going to draw people in versus, this is what you'll get and here's all the things I give you.
Yes.
It was more about you and really being a part of this bigger thing that's going to help you.
Yes, like you and joining the community. Those were the key, and those are the key pieces, right? Those are the key pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when I do this exercise, normally I spend a lot more time in it, and then people really do get into that place. So this was the quickie version, but even a little, and of course you're already really good at what you do, Melody, and you're really good at, your intention is always so positive and wanting to help people and wanting to help authors. So you're already at this level to begin with. And so we were just seeing, oh, can we tweak it a little bit more? Whereas some people are not as good at you as you at, telling people what you have to give and what you do. So you are already starting up here, but it did get even a little higher by talking about the community and joining and, and talking about you. And there was a few less words in there too, which also makes a difference, because sometimes you explain too much and then people get lost.
And that's part of it. We overtalk because we are afraid, because we are nervous, because we're unsure of what people think. And sometimes I notice with authors, they really want to drive the point home. I noticed that in their writing as well. It's like, look, you don't need to beat us over the head with it.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's a pet peeve of mine, when authors, if I read a book and you've told me the same thing 5 times, I get so turned off by that. So It's like, tell it one way powerfully, and so it lands. And then you don't need to repeat it.
And then trust your readers.
Yes.
Right.
So I do an exercise that's all about say more with less. And we just keep paring it down and paring it down and paring it down. So you're using fewer and fewer words. And I'm guilty of that myself. Being a writer, right? You're verbose. You have a lot to say. You have a lot of words and a lot of ways of describing things. But to make your audience really tune in and listen, it's good to pare it down.
And that's a really good point, because that's what editing is about for the book, right? To pare it down, to pare it down, to pare it down. So, and I think sometimes we think that we have to memorize something in order to get it right. But what I've noticed is when I know somebody's memorized something, they lose their sizzle. So it's not really about memorizing the words per se. It's about having a strong intention and knowing your material. Right, rather than memorizing something and doing it rote like a performance. And I just want to say, Lise has said, thank you, Marla, for the exercise. As a writer and Reiki practitioner, I can see you are spot on with the energy points. Others need to hear your valuable info. Thank you, Lise, for showing up and for that lovely comment.
Yes, thank you so much, Lise. You are right on. That is so helpful. The energy work is so important. It is so important.
Yeah.
And then just to piggyback on, we were talking before about performance and not sounding rehearsed. And you're right, it takes away the sizzle big time. So not only do you want to know your information when you go to speak, but you want to tell yourself that you know it, and just be confident that people are going to get your message, and it doesn't have to be this exact way. And the less rehearsed you sound, the more relatable you are. So the more people are going to tune in and keep their attention.
Yeah, exactly. So if you'd like to learn more about Marla, go to marlapress.com. And Marla has lots of exercises about public speaking and energy. It's not just energy. It's not just public speaking. There's a whole continuum of exercises depending on what you're working on. And Marla, I had a question about engaging, because we talk about sizzling on stage and engaging people. And when we're just one-on-one, we are having, we have chemistry and we're engaging each other. But if I'm on stage, how do I engage 100 people all at once?
Yeah, that's for some people really scary. And the mistakes I see people make. So if you're live and on person, what the old way of public speaking was 2 things that are just, don't do them. So one is to ask a lot of questions, right? So how many of you have? Raise your hand. How many of you have? Raise your hand. Number one, some people haven't. And so you lose them right away. So you have to make sure if you ask a question, you're going to get a yes from everyone in the audience. And it's such an old salesy way of starting a conversation. So I don't recommend that. The other thing we used to be taught is, look at everybody, right? So you're going to, if there's 100 people, you're going to be constantly flitting your eyes around. That doesn't work either. What you want to do is look at one person at a time and look right into their eyes and wait until what you're saying lands and gets a little bit of a reaction. And when you do that, the energy in the room shifts because everybody feels like you're talking to them because they feel it versus, you're trying to look at everybody and you're really seeing nobody. So that's one way.
Yeah.
I get the audience moving a lot. So whether we're on Zoom or whether we're on a live stage, how can you get them to stand up, or how can you get them? I do something where I tell people to take out a key and hold it in their hand. And if they don't have a key, to imagine this key because you have the key to whatever I'm talking about. So whatever you can do to involve them, get them actually moving. Because again, when we're using our whole body versus just our eyes and ears, we experience something much differently and it really lands. So that's another way. And then of course there's just, you got to have some entertainment factor and some sizzle factor. And I use a little more performance when I'm on a stage than when I'm in a Zoom room, even if there's 100 people in the Zoom room. It's just a different kind of energy. But there's so many ways you can engage people by taking them through an exercise, or of course, one of the best ways is to tell compelling stories.
Yes.
And the thing about stories, so too many people, if you have an inspiring story and you're mostly a motivational speaker, maybe your book is about your personal experience, that's really important. So you want to move forward with that story, but you tweak it just enough so that it doesn't become about you. It becomes about your audience. Then they will totally be connected with you and involved, no matter how big the audience is, because you tell the story, but you make it about them, their life, how they can transform, how they can benefit from this. And that's another huge way to use your story, because a lot of people will just talk about the chronological story. Or, I had a client who was, a cancer survivor. And at first, when she started telling her story, it was all about, well, this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. And it's, for a lot of people, they're going to relate. But we tweaked it so that she painted word pictures. And she started in the middle of the story. It's like, there I was sitting in the doctor's office. He was wearing blah, blah. I was hearing this. And you put them right in the middle of that action. And that's also how you engage people, is putting them in that action right away and not starting with the backstory.
Yes. Yeah. Great, great points. Thank you. Now, you said something, I was hoping we had time to come back to it, because you said something earlier about, we were talking about, you used the word feminine, we were talking about feminine, masculine. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because I've been told, oh, you're very masculine, not physically. So physically, I've been told I'm very feminine. But in my personality, the confidence, I'm very decisive. Like, do you want A or B? I'll just pick one, right? Do you want to try this marketing strategy or that? I don't know. Let's just go with that and go, right? I'm very decisive. And so I've been told that these are very masculine traits. And I tend to reject that idea. It's like, why can't I not be feminine and decisive and confident and, right? And so can you just tell me a little bit about, you were talking about feminine, masculine earlier. So can you just elaborate a little bit on what that means and what that means on stage?
Yeah, so this could definitely be an entire show,
Right.
but it's a huge topic and it's a very controversial one.
Yes.
And when I talk to people about it and I say, oh, so what do you think are feminine traits and what do you think are masculine traits? And typically the ones I hear, feminine is submissive, emotional, wearing dresses, that kind of thing. And masculine is, big ego and really tough, not emotional, and things like that, dominant. But those are more societal, toxic qualities.
Mm-hmm.
So what I help people to do, we all have masculine and feminine in us, right? And we need them. We need that balance. But where exactly do you balance? What's best for you is a huge topic to explore and so valuable. So when I think of the feminine qualities, I think of more as being in the flow of things, collaboration, being receptive. So we think of women are givers, right? But giving is actually a masculine quality. Receiving is the feminine. And it's real hard for a lot of women to receive. And even hard for men to receive also. We're taught to give, right? Giving is better than receiving. But if you do both and balance them, if you have opportunities and you don't receive them, you're not going to go as far with those opportunities. So, and for men, it's, it is decisiveness. It's looking right in front of you and picking something there. It's not the collaboration. It's not, it's being very task oriented. So we need some of that, right? We have to get things done, but how can we be powerful and feminine, or powerful and masculine? Because you don't have to be masculine to be powerful. There's feminine traits that are very powerful. They're just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do you do this on stage? Well, I take people through exercises. Of course, it's an exercise. I have several exercises to explore where you are in that balance. And even, for people that don't identify male or female, this works for everybody because it's finding your best balance. And then it's really connecting to it and exuding it, because most of us repress parts of who we are. We just, even if it's subtle, when you repress that, you're not as authentic and you don't feel as good. This is, when you write and you go to speak, you want to feel good. And this really helps with that. So for women, it might be you put on a dress or you put on a pretty scarf or jewelry, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be just, just the way your body moves. Women are more asymmetrical, men are more symmetrical. It could be that, you just feel where the energy is in your lower body versus having your body, your energy up here, where men are more kind of here, women are more down in the hip area. So it's connecting to these places and then knowing that you don't have to be masculine to be powerful. Part of it is a mind shift, because a lot of women, we've gone into a lot of businesses that were dominated by male, and we say, okay, well, that's the way I have to be to get along. That's the way I have to be successful. But we're finding more and more in the workplaces and cultures are changing to accept some of these feminine qualities that are just as important.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. Because you said it earlier and I had it in my head. Let's come back to it. It was brilliant. Have we missed anything really important? Is there anything you just want to wrap up with, or?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk at least 3 more hours. There is no doubt about that, about the feminine, masculine for sure, about energy, about, how to be a good speaker, how to stop performing. There's so many great things that are very helpful. And I the main thing is I just want to encourage everyone out there to, if you haven't written your book yet, write a book. It is so liberating to write that first book. And write it and get help with it. Get help with publishing, get help with ideas, find a coach. And then you can't just write it and expect it to take off on its own, especially these days. There's so many books. You have to market it and you have to speak about it and make that a joyful experience by learning how to be in this authentic place where you don't feel like you're selling your book as much as you are sharing this great information and sharing yourself with others. And I just encourage everyone to go out and do that.
Those are great points. Enjoy writing your book, because if you're not enjoying writing it, people probably aren't enjoying reading it. So I know that you have this great, download about mistakes that speakers often make and how to correct them. And you're also offering 30 minutes. Can you just talk a little bit about, how people can reach you? There is a link tree, by the way, everyone, linktree/Marla Press. It's in the description as well. Everything Marla is going to talk about, I'm sure she can add there as well. So Marla, tell us a little bit about how people can reach you and how you support.
Yeah, I love the link tree because it has everything in there. If you want to, go to social media or look at my YouTube or go to my website, or you want to set up a chat. And I encourage you to set up a chat because what I do is experiential. I always do an exercise. So if you talk with me, it's not going to be about, here's what I do, here's the 5 steps to do something, sign up for this or that. It's what do you need? And let's do an exercise that relates to that and see if it helps. And if you get something from that, then we can work together more. But that's where my intention is and where I come from. So I would love to get to know you. And that's one of the best ways to set up an actual chat together. But you can find lots of information on my website also.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marla. And Lise says, great tips. Thank you both so much. I agree, Lise. It was great tips. Thank you, Marla, so much for being with us today and just sharing so much about what you do and the exercise. That was a lot of fun. I really appreciated that.
Oh, good. My pleasure. I'm so grateful to be here and talk with your audience and get to know you better.
Thank you, Marla. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. So if you do have a book in you, join Author Nation. You can find us at authornation.community. It is scrolling past you right now. I won't tell you more about it because Marla got me to tell you about it twice today. That was fun. But if you have a book in you, join the community. It is the best place to get it done. And next week, we'll be talking to Anne Fowler about her memoir. Just can't wait the adventures this woman has been on. She's really built her own life on a choose your own adventure type scale. So I'll see everyone then.